Reunited and it feels so good. Do you like that? I specifically warmed up my falsetto just for you. Why did I warm it up exactly? Because this is a brand new episode of the Anime Dudes and the Anime Dads podcast. And today we have me, Bjorvio, the man of mythical sons, joined today by my amazing co host, the Anime Dad, the spoon rest for the wicked.
I like that. Mythical sons. What about daughters? It's weird, but that makes sense. Mythical sons is something that I've read about in the history books. Spoon rest for the wicked. Flip, I love your turn of phrase this evening. It's great, and it's great to be back. It really, really is. Really happy to be with my main man, and really happy to be talking about all things anime. Now,
Yes,
we
sir.
have quite an exciting episode. What are we talking about, Bjorvio? And then we'll get into our improv questions after we know what we're talking about, other than anime and cool things.
Today we are talking about anime characters, specifically anime villains, that were low key right. Maybe their methodology was a little off, or maybe it was right. Who's to say? Maybe you agree that Aaron Yeager should have done what he did. Maybe you don't. Maybe you just like the philosophy of what he was doing, but not hit the way he carried it out. I don't know how you could separate the two in his case, but hey, I'm not here to judge. That's what we are talking about today.
It's quite exciting. It's a good topic. I'm excited for it, and we might ruffle some hairs and pluck some feathers, but that's okay. That's what we're here for. Let's get into our improv questions. I'll start with one, you pump out one, then I'll go for the next, and you go for the next. All right, my first one to you. Can you give me a caveat?
You can only talk about something that has the color purple.
Yeah. Barney walks up to you in the park and he's just binge watched his new favorite anime. What's Barney's favorite anime? And what do you guys go next after the park?
So Barney's favorite anime has to be how heavy are the dumbbells you lift? Because what you don't actually realize is, do you realize how large his arms are compared to other dinosaurs of his species? You know how that is? Because he is a gym rat. He loves going to the gym and lifting weights. Therefore, it actually, rather than, you can tell if a dinosaur, specifically a T Rex, is fit or not by how long their arms are, not how bulky they are. So, obviously, that's his favorite one because that is the one he can relate to the most, obviously.
I could imagine him pumping iron, and that'd be a good anime. I'd watch him pumping iron. What is my first improv question? Your only caveat is the police are involved.
All right. So, you're looking back at your baby pictures, thinking about all of the memories that are associated with them that you clearly can't remember because you were a baby. So you rely on pictures for that. And as you are flipping through the pictures, you see the one, probably your greatest memory, of you being arrested by the police at the age of 1, being thrown into jail, and then an anime character busts you out of prison and feeds you something that you will always remember for the rest of your life. Now, this anime character, it takes you a little bit of time to remember, but his name is Naruto Uzumaki, but he doesn't give you ramen. What does he give you instead?
A kiss, because that's his new power. I'm annoyed about the ramen. Believe it, he gives me a kiss on the cheek, and that's just to comfort me. That's like a comfort thing, and I feel really better because of it. So that's the story of how Naruto saved me from prison. What's my caveat for my second question?
Your caveat is it has to involve something broken.
Okay, all right. Well, after Naruto broke my heart and left, I I decided to head to my best mate's house in Bjorvio. And at your house, there are three things that we did that are based on anime that we watch. Okay. What are those three things we did? And what why did I get hit in the face with an apple?
Well, the first thing that we did is we put a frozen popsicle into boiling water because we were trying to manifest the icy hot quirk of Shoto Todoroki. The second one is we shot Kamehamehas into the refrigerator because we're combining both of the things Goku loves, fighting and food, into one thing. And the final thing was we tried to dodge apples being thrown at each other, and it hit you in the face. Not because I'm a good shot, but because it bounced off the refrigerator being open from when we were doing earlier, and then it hit you in the face. And as you fell to the floor, you got covered in mildly cold, room temperature water from the icy hot popsicle in boiling water.
Goodness for that. Thank goodness it wasn't hot. My goodness me. That
Would have
actually.
been if not for that popsicle, I'm telling you.
What flavor was the popsicle?
It was a fudge sickle, actually.
Oh my god. I've never actually had a fudgicle. Is that made out of fudge?
Not really. It's mostly just like chocolate stuff. I'm not a super big fan of them. Like I ate them a few growing up, but it was more so, oh, they're here. I guess I'll have one rather than like, can you go buy me a fudge sickle? That's probably exactly what I sounded like as a kid.
That's Deku when he was younger. Okay, let's get into a good conversation
Oh, I still
about.
got one.
Oh, sorry, sir.
But
Well, that's what I
you
was
got to
gonna
give me a
say.
caveat, though.
I was gonna say, let's get into a good conversation about your final improv. Okay.
Right, exactly. Obviously.
Your final improv, you need to include the title of this book.
Okay. So while you are on the floor being after getting pelted in the face with an apple, you discover that you are allergic to cats.
Mm.
And so we are like, oh my gosh, I have a cat. We need to take you to the ER. So we take you to the ER. And on the way there, you're actually fine. So we take you back home and you break out into a reaction again. And then we finally get you to the ER. And that's when we discover that it's not pets you're allergic to, it's farty pets that you're allergic to, specifically the methane that's released from them that is causing you to have a reaction. Well, we get to the ER and there's an anime character that sets off an even worse reaction for you. Who was it?
I'm so happy we're staying along with the theme of creating a little bit of a story. It was definitely Yajirobe, and
100%.
that's just because, I mean, you can just see it. He's a good guy. He's got a cool sword, but he would set me off with an explosion
And he lives
for
with
sure.
corn. So,
It's corn, a big bowl of nuts. It's got the juice. Yes.
it's got the juice.
Thank you, thank you. All right, now we can get into a conversation about what anime villains were completely right. Now, or slightly right. There is a lot of, there might be debate, there might be tears from myself, but that's okay. That's what we're here for. This episode or this show, the Anime Dads and the Anime Dudes podcast, is about crying yourself to sleep after hearing about an anime or a villain that you love. So let's talk about this. Bjorvio, maybe you can go
Yes.
first, then I'll go, and then you go, then I go. And I've got about three.
I got about three. I also asked a couple of people who some villains were that they thought were right, and surprisingly, none of them were on my list.
Whoa.
So I might mention those at the end of as just kind of some honorable mentions to see if they end up on yours as well.
Exciting. Okay. I'm very excited. Let's go. We'll choose you first.
All right, so my third is one that I'm not going to go a whole lot into detail on because while you know this character, you don't know their backstory yet. And I'm willing to bet if you haven't read the manga, you don't know this character's backstory. But I'm gonna warn you. I'm gonna tell you guys. I think he's right in some ways, and that is Upper Moon 3 Akaza from Demon Slayer.
Upper Moon 3. What does he look like?
He's the one that donuted Rengoku. I'm
Oh,
not saying he's right for
damn,
that. I'm not saying he's right for
Bjorvio.
that. No, no. He's not right for that. Okay. Okay. That is not his origin story. That's not his motives. But you find out other things later that I do that you're like I don't justify that action. That's like the exception. But like everything else about him, there's like he's got when you understand his backstory, you understand a lot more of why he is my favorite villain in the show and why he makes some of the choices that he does.
Mm.
And I'm actually kind of on board with some of his justifications. I'm not saying that I would do the same thing, like, but he's pretty cool. He's pretty
Okay.
cool,
What?
I understand why he did what he did in a lot of ways. In a similar vein to how I can understand why Gyutaro did what he did for Daki.
Yes.
It's kind of like that, but I understand Akaza's a little bit more for some reason. That being said, like I said, I wouldn't do what he did by any stretch of the imagination, especially not to my boy.
I was gonna say you heard it here first. Rengoku deserved it from Bjorvio. I'm just joking. I'm just joking. No,
Shut your lying mouth.
I'm excited. I'm excited to read that. I've actually been getting into reading some manga, and
Oh, okay.
yeah, yeah. I'm just starting with One Piece, which is a great one to start with.
Yeah, yeah. Couldn't recommend it enough. Absolutely. Yeah, you got plenty of time, right?
I think the manga is going to be quicker than the anime, though. But
Probably.
but that's a good choice. Good first choice for sure. Okay, my number three is someone that, even though I don't agree with his actions, I agree with his reasoning, maybe, and his conviction. And that's Stain from My Hero Academia.
Bro, yes. Oh my gosh, Stain almost made my freaking list. You have no idea.
I mean, and that's just because there is a corrupt hero world going on. You look at someone like, who's that gigantification woman?
Endeavor? No, Mount Lady.
Yes, I mean, she's using her power to her advantage. There are so many people. The whole system is corrupt. There are fake heroes out there, and Stain sticks to his
You need to be held
ideals.
accountable.
They need to be held accountable. That doesn't necessarily mean killing them, but it means
No.
it means I don't know. I don't know what he could have done to improve it, but he definitely got his message out there, and he still is. So does Stain? You don't have to spoil anything, but does Stain come back on in the manga a little bit?
Well, you know that he does come back in what is that, season six? The end
Yes.
of season six, he comes back for a little bit. Um, and I will say that's not his last appearance.
Okay, well, that makes me happy. I like that idea, and I'm excited to see him again. So that's why he's my number three. Who is your number two?
All right, my number two is a little bit of a controversial one because I don't think anyone really thinks about this villain very often. But you know what? I agree with a lot of what he was going to do and what he did and all that stuff. And I feel like he gets overshadowed very easily by another version of himself. But he's kind of just a chill dude. He didn't want to be a part of what the big bad thing was going on. He just wanted to go out, do his own thing, be super chill, make his own friends, and just do what he wanted to do and didn't take no from anybody. And
Sukuna.
that's pretty darn cool. No, no, not Sukuna. It's actually Greed from Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Okay, I like it. Very good. Very good choice. You're completely right. Even though he had those emotions of greed and wanting more and more, he didn't want to fulfill father's plan.
Mm-hmm. No, he didn't. and he made his own, like he had his own friends. Yes, his way of looking at them was a little crooked, like, yes, they're mine, like, what, blah blah blah. But in the end, he stood up for them, like, straight up. And like, that's what I really admired about Greed, is he knew what he wanted. He wasn't afraid to go get it. And when he heard of some bad stuff going on that he didn't agree with, he was like, okay, deuces, bye.
And Deuce's nice reference to your number two choice. I like it. He did say Deuces means two for those listening in Spain. Um, very good choice. I like your number two. I really do. And you make me want to watch Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood once again, actually.
That's like me every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday.
All right, my number two is a villain that I look up to. His ideals are beautiful and wonderful,
X-Men.
and and simple. Just like you said, simple. I think simple ideas are nice. And this is someone. Okay, enough build up. His name is Boo from Dragon Ball Z.
Okay. I'm trying to what, like Majin Buu, Super Buu, Kid Buu, like which Buu are we talking?
Majin Boo, the initial.
Okay. I can get behind Majin Buu. Yeah,
I
I
mean,
can see where you're going with that.
okay. He loves animals so much. He's very new and fresh. He doesn't really know what's going on. He's got this tremendous amount of power, but he doesn't really mean to hurt people. He just wants to eat them because he's hungry. He wants sweets and lollies. He does, and that's all he wants. He wants sweets and lollies. He wants love. He wants care, and that's shown by Mr. Satan, who keeps him in line and just shows him love, care, and gives him food. And you can see how kind he actually is. Yes, he's a child in a way, but his convictions, which is eat good, solid food and be kind to animals, is something that I can agree with.
100%, 100%. Hey, you want to do our best Majin Buu impressions right quick?
You go first.
I don't think I've ever done this before. All right.
Hold on, it looked really funny because it didn't come through the mic, and it looked like you just went
All
like
right,
a,
hang on.
you went like
Let
a.
me turn it again. All right, hang on.
Boo, eat you
Still
up, but
nothing?
nothing. I heard this.
Ah, must be too high
Boo.
pitched.
All right,
Boo, hate you.
there we go. Boo did a poo. Okay, that was Bjorvio again. Nice
Why
one,
is that
Bjorvio.
actually something I feel like he would say?
Very good. Okay, drum roll for your number one. A villain that you want to be, you agree with their convictions, and you are going to be their best friend and hang out on weekends. Who is it?
Okay. I talk about this villain a lot. I do. I agree with a lot of with this villain. I sympathize with this villain. I don't agree with their methodology. I agree. Well, not all of it. Parts of it I actually kind of do. Okay. But this dude has been through the ringer. Like his back, like I understand how he turned out the way he did. I understand why he feels the way he does and why he thinks the way he does. And in a way, he's not wrong. Society does need to change, specifically hero society. And that is Tomura Shigaraki.
I told you, everyone, it's his best friend. Okay, I can see it. Explain, explain.
So Tomura has this, I'm trying to remember what's in the manga and what's in the show, but I'm pretty sure I can separate the two. Tomura was raised by All for One. Okay, that already is going to screw you up. Number two, people had completely rejected him, which is also going to screw you up. And his home life wasn't super great. His dad was kind of a jerk, and couldn't deal with his own trauma, so he kind of put that on Tomura. And then when his quirk activated, at first he felt so bad for using it until he got to his dad, and then he's like, okay, now it's time for me to access my rage. Like Tomura at that point, I guess at that point, Tenko felt this. He never really had a leg up on anything in his life. And now he actually got to, and the first person he came across that actually was wanting to help him was like, no, 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 that's fine. Not only should you do that, that is why you are on this earth. Okay. And so now he feels like, society has wronged him because that's all he knows. And every piece of information he ever got was telling him, this is your job, this is your duty. He was brainwashed from the beginning, but at the same time, the society he's in was corrupted by heroes, as you said with Stain. And it needed to change because people were falling through the cracks. And if that's not evident by My Hero Academia, look at My Hero Academia Vigilantes.
Yeah, yeah, good point. Really good point. And he has a lot of rage and anger, and he does have some good convictions there. Now, I mean, everyone we've
But
said
he's
so.
not a bad guy.
No,
Deep down, he's really not. I mean, he's misguided for sure, but he's not a bad guy.
but it brings the question: everyone we've said, okay, everyone we've said have had horrible things happen to them, and and not everyone, but they've had horrible things happen to them, and they live in a corrupt world. Now, because of the horrible things that have happened to them, does that excuse the wrong things they've done? I'm just trying to, obviously it doesn't, because everyone has a choice, but it might explain the wrong things they've done. What's your opinion?
Well, I mean, does what happened to Tomura Shigaraki justify the fact that he essentially destroyed half a city with all the people still in the buildings? Does what happened to one life justify him being able to take all these other lives? And to that, I say no, absolutely not. Maybe some of his minor things. I can't even think of anything that he has done that I would fully justify in terms of like, yeah, that's an appropriate amount of wrongdoing to make your point. Like he it, to be fair, I mean his quirk does easily kill people, but I mean still he can control that now.
Yeah, that's true. He can, but I mean, you make a lot of sense. It's interesting, and what we're saying here is in these villains, with these villains, we're saying that they have some good points. They're justified in some of what they're doing. Um,
Right. And they're complex, which is what we like about them. We're only really scratching the surface of a lot of these villains and what makes them such great villains. I mean, Shiggy's one of my favorite villains in all of anime because of how complex he is in his whole story and his motives. That doesn't mean I agree with him in every sense. Like, I'm not going to be like, you know what? Yeah, you have a decay quirk. Go use it. Go wild.
well, All for One did. um,
I know, right?
okay, that's a great final choice, and he was on very close to making my list as well. I really appreciate him as a person and his convictions. Some of his convictions are real good. Now, my number one is someone that you don't know. I mean, you might know them, but I've recently learned them, who they are, and what they do and why they do it, and it's completely altered my perception on villains as a whole. And for those listening who do know Hunter x Hunter,
Mm.
they're gonna freak. They're gonna. I'm sure they'll agree. Now this is the Chimera Ant arc, and it's the King Ant. Uh, he is extremely powerful. His name's Miriam. He's extremely powerful, incredibly strong, very intelligent, but he was doing this thing. Have you watched Hunter x Hunter? I think.
No, but I've seen Solo Leveling, and I know all about the Ant arc, so it's fine. No, I'm kidding. But actually, in doing research for this episode, that is one of the answers I was given, and I was like, okay, that like without a whole lot of spoilers, they were able to tell me what was going on, and I was like, I get that, and I respect that. I think that's a very, very good answer.
Yeah, along the same lines as everyone. The world is corrupt. People are killing people on a massive degree, and ants take away human individuality, and they work as a colony. So his reason for doing things is to keep his colony alive in a way. But he ends up playing. This is not going to spoil anything, but he ends up playing different games like chess and shogi with different humans to see to show everyone that he's the greatest. And he meets this girl who he can't beat, but who changes his perspective on life. And yeah, it's just very interesting, very amazing, very complex, and very beautiful. But I can agree with a lot of what he was saying after he changed his perspective. So, yeah, that's why he's my number one. And if he asked to be my best friend, I would struggle to say no. I would
I'm
struggle to
glad you
say
said struggled.
no. um, do you have any noticeable mentions?
So the noticeable mentions on my list were you're number one, clearly.
Mm.
You're also one that I hadn't considered, and I actually wanted to bring this up to you because I feel like you would. I want to hear your talk on this. Would you consider Yuri Breyer a villain?
Good choice. Good choice. Really interesting, actually. And Yuri Breyer is the brother of
Your
your
forger.
forger.
Yeah.
Um, stop, monkey. Yes. No, no, I would not. I would not consider him a villain. I consider him being in a situation of um, an alternate situation. Again, his mind would have been changed by his upbringing. He's strong and firm because of these ideals that have been put into his head. He's trying to protect his sister and protect his country. So no, I wouldn't say he's a villain in that, because if he's a villain, then so is Lloyd.
Well, Lloyd kind of is. When you think about it, I mean, he's entered another country as a spy to get information so that his side could win. I and so by your definition, also I go back to, well, what's the difference then between Yuri and Donovan Desmond? I'm like,
Yeah,
I don't know. There's not a whole lot by that logic.
true. But then we're going down to who is a villain in life itself. I mean, in most scenarios, who are villains?
Anya.
Anya's definitely a villain. I suppose it would be those who thrive on human suffering and make money off of people who are breaking their own backs and not caring for others. I think that would be the most villainous acts. People who don't care about others, step on them to get ahead. Um, in that regard, I'm not completely up to date with the manga of Spy Family. What would you classify Yuri?
No, it's complicated because there is something that happens a little later on where I don't I don't know. I personally don't consider Yuri a villain. Even though if the MC is Lloyd, which then even though Yuri's ideology is against Lloyd's, I still don't consider him a villain. I
No.
consider what, but that was just kind of a
Hmm.
yeah. I could see why people could make an argument for Yuri, but at the same time, I'm like, I wouldn't consider him a villain in Spy Family by any means. I wouldn't consider him part of the main cast or anything either. But he does have a very important and vital role, in the plot of Spy Family. But and yes, like I said, his ideologies might oppose Lloyd and possibly even his own sister, but uh, I don't. I feel weird classifying him as a villain. You know,
That's true. That's true. And the funny thing about things like even Dragon Ball Z, people were villains now. Most of the villains there are
like
friends.
half of the Z Fighters were.
I know. So it's hard to judge them as well. But yeah, yeah. The word
Yeah.
villain is
Um.
from Velaeus Aninus, which is Latin for um, soon to be friend. So
Yep. Other runners up besides them were Pain from Naruto. Completely agree. I think that was good. And then someone actually posed Light Yagami, and I was like maybe like beginning of the series Light Yagami I can get behind, but like not end of the series Light Yagami, not at all.
no,
Definitely not at the end.
he was on my list as well, like Yagami, in the beginning of the series. And who was the other person you just mentioned? Like Yagami and
Pain from Naruto.
yeah, Pain Madara was on my list as well from Naruto.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, but it's actually fun to talk about. It's interesting to have these conversations. What about solo leveling? Who's the villain there?
Um, I can kind of get behind Egress just because he's serving kind of I'm not going to get into spoiler territory, but when you first meet him, he's defending this empty seat, and that there's meaning behind that, there's symbolism, and he's willing to do whatever he's got to do to defend that. And that it's not the most complex of motives, but it's pretty darn good. The Ant King, I completely get it. He's just trying, he's just trying to look out for the survival of his colony, 100%. And then you have people like Tank, and I'm like, yeah, no, you were just a jerk.
And the true big bad villains, I don't think have really exposed themselves in the anime. That's
No, no, not from what I've read. No.
hmm. But I appreciate this conversation. I like it a lot, and I think people need to talk about villains more. Villains are the unsung heroes of the world, and a lot of villains have concepts that people can get behind, and they're also misunderstood, and they're doing things the wrong way, and they've got a hard life. Um, we are running out of time, but could you potentially close us out with five, no, with four different villain voices? Would that be possible?
I can do what I can.
Glad I was number one in somebody's book today. I mean, my gosh. How many times do we have to talk about me before people actually put some respect on my name? Thank you, Anime Dad, and thank you, Bjorvio. This was a wonderful episode. Thank you so much. I feel valued and loved.
Well, I feel forgotten. I mean, I only got a name drop, but whatever, I suppose. So that's what happens when you're not as beautiful as other people, I suppose. Well, if you were a prince of anything besides just demons, you're not even a prince of that. I'm the prince of all Saiyans. Of course I'm handsome. Have you seen my wife? She wouldn't go for anyone ugly. Yeah, but okay. Vegeta, I really think you need to take a moment to chill. Oh, shut up! You're not even a villain anymore! In fact, didn't I kill you? I was at one point. Shut up. Anyway, thank you so much for tuning in to the Anime Dudes and the Anime Dads podcast. For those that don't know, my name's Piccolo. Come back next week. We have another exciting episode. And don't forget, go beyond.
Plus
Plus
Ultra.
Ultra.